Welcome to the Echo Sportscast Spotlight.
I'm Paul McLean.
Today we have Doctor of Resiliency, Dr. Rob Graham, here to talk about, you can be competitive and kind at the same time.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Just an honor to be in here with you rock stars, and really looking forward to it.
Right on. Now, we just passed Kindness Week, and a lot of people talking about how to value those around you and be kind, right? So how do you incorporate that kind of thing into a competitive sports where you end up with people fighting each other and hitting each other with sticks?
Well, I developed something called the Hockey Life Skills Mentorship Program. And really that program, when people say, well, what is that? You know, it's kind of amalgam of a few things. But literally what I took is everything that nobody ever taught me as a young goalie playing hockey in the 70s and 80s. And I took my 23 years as an educator, put it in a blender, added my 20 plus years as a goalie coach, and then I took my research in resiliency and I put it in a blender and came up with this Hockey Life Skills Mentorship Program. And kind of at the heart of it, I think, is the whole idea, how do we do better, be better, and make others better? And that's really kind of at the heart of it. But also, I think, you know, one of the essential aspects of what I do is I always tell parents and kids, I'm not here to get you to the OHL or the NHL. What I am here to do is to help you enjoy the experience more, something that I didn't enjoy as a young hockey player. And I'm going to tell you a story right now. This is one of the first stories that I tell my young goalies. Back in 1974 or 5, I think it was, I was playing in an international tournament in Chicago with a bunch of kids representing Team Canada. And we were playing Sweden. And this was the last year that Bobby Orr was playing for the Blackhawks. Okay. So the coach says, boys, Mr. Orr is in the building. He'd like to come in and shake your hands and wish you luck. I never got a chance to shake Bobby Orr's hand because I was throwing up in the toilet. Because I threw up before every game. And one of the things that I said, I never want the athletes I mentor to be throwing up when Bobby Orr is there to shake your hand. And so, you know, I talk about chasing the experience and not chasing the dream. It's kind of something I wrote in my book that really latched on with a lot of people. And really what that means is when you focus on the experience and you enter the rink daily with gratitude and not attitude, you may not get to the NHL or the OHL or the PWHL, but you're going to enjoy the experience. And that's really kind of at the heart of what I do.
I guess a lot of people are on that path choose to be very aggressively competitive, and it's a very tense and stressful experience for themselves, and they still don't get the NHL. So
100%. And like I say, man, if you can just enjoy the experience, embrace your time riding the bus, being in the hotel rooms, enjoying the process of getting better. And when we can change that focus, I mean, so many kids, I think you see it all the time too, you know, they're so distracted by the dream, like I was as a young athlete, that the dream took away from enjoying that living in the moment or the process. So, you know, what I try to do through my program is trying to transition the mental mindset from chasing the dream to enjoying the experience. And at the heart of that is when you enter the rink with gratitude and not attitude. And when you can start and understand that process and embrace that, and I have a bit of a framework I've come up with mentoring athletes that way, good things are going to happen. And the first thing is you're going to enjoy the game more. And when you can enjoy the game more, good things are going to happen. Everything that nobody ever taught me, really.
It's interesting that you say that. I honestly could not agree more. I've been really focusing in lately on that experience and how can we provide the experience and how can we broaden the experience so it's not just always the elite athletes that get it. And I love what you said about where you're going to send people, because to me, if you don't enjoy the journey, the destination actually sucks for just about everybody. You know, very few people get to have that, you know, moment where you're in front of the podium and you're, you know, shedding some tears and thanking everybody because you get to retire. Like even, you know, the 99% I feel like of professional athletes still retire when there's no one left to play or you're injured and you kind of fade off into the shadows. And, you know, just being there and enjoying everything, like you said, the bus ride, look out the window, know where you're going. I still, be driving through and I go through an old town that I played in when I was 12 and I want to drive by the rink. And if it's open, I want to walk in because like those memories just like flood back in the moment you get there. And I don't think you get that when you're so focused on, I got to get to this spot or I got to make this team or life's over or I got screwed and I didn't get, make this team. Like,
and there's so much,
always an opportunity.
I think you would agree there's so much more pressure on athletes today with the social media and the AAA programs and what have you. There's so much more pressure on kids today to achieve with access to information that I never certainly had back in the day.
No.
So, I guess, people do say, well, I guess you really kind of are working in the mental health industry. And yeah, it's funny. I guess you're right. Like the Hockey Life Skills Mentorship Program, as a goalie coach for many years, I'd go to goalie camps and I'd sit there and I'd watch sports psychologists come in and spend hours working with kids. And I thought, there's got to be some more glue there to connect these concepts. And so I was, I think, able to create something that's a lot more relatable for young athletes. And yes, it certainly is really in the realm of mental health, because really the heart of what I'm doing is how can we get you to love what you're doing more? You love what you do, how do you make your teammates better? How do you make yourself better? And how do you enjoy the experience more? And that's really what I'm trying to do. And, I would also argue that in the process, it's really helping me. It's really helping me. So it's not a one-way street. I get a lot back from the athletes that I work with, and I need that inspiration too. So it's not a one-way street.
Well, that's excellent because that wasn't the focus for many years, right? It's and the way I try to tell people about that kind of thing is that your opportunity on a team is to make friends and network and to be social with those guys and make friends for life. And you're not going to do that if you're only focused on yourself.
Or only focused on that one team. I think that can be a loss for people too, where, tryout season, I've actually talked about it on this podcast. Like I really got to experience and open my eyes to what so many parents go through and how stressful that can be for the kids. And sometimes I think just as much, and I don't mean it as a criticism, I think it's true, as the whole family feels like they're on pins and needles, like they're going to be cut. You're being like cut out of a social circle. You're being left off of this experience. So as a parent, what did I do wrong that I couldn't get my kid to be ready to be able to make this team and have the experience that these, 15, 16 other kids are going to get to have? And so I wonder, and this is something we're trying to do a little bit with baseball, and I listened to a podcast about the Savannah Bananas, a wild team, and they now play banana ball. They're becoming popular. It's not even baseball, but how can we create a better experience for our fans, and how can we create a better experience for these athletes? Because I think sometimes I noticed that at a house league hockey tournament that I've been going to, where the parents are wearing the logos of the team and they're just as excited as any AAA parent, and they're wheeling the speakers in and the kids are doing the warm-ups. They want to do all the things that the AAA team does. And that really kind of made me think, like, you don't have to play AAA to get that experience. And that experience of all those fun things that you get shouldn't be exclusive. And I don't think they are. I think parents want that. I think it's great. And so regardless of your skill level, you can still belong and you can get to know and try and have those experiences. And hopefully for those kids that maybe float between teams, you also learn the lesson of, what it's like to meet new people and have that confidence, which ties all the way back to the mental health and, what's going to happen with a new job, what's going to happen when you move to another town. You're just, more versatile.
Well, I think, I fully agree with what you're saying there. And I think a lot of times the athletes I work with and even the parents, they think that hockey defines you. And as a young kid, if I let a bad goal in and I had a bad game, I thought I was a bad person, right? And hockey, we think, that hockey defines us. It doesn't. Hockey shouldn't define you as a person. Hockey shouldn't define you as a parent.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I felt like I was a bad person because I had a bad game, and that hockey was my personality and it defined me. It's, again, something that I really do work with a lot of my athletes on, that hockey doesn't define you, right? It's a part of what you do. And then something that goes with that, in my opinion, I really try to get athletes to focus on what is their why. Your why is kind of like your motivation. It's what drives you. And a lot of times I will get parents call me and say, can you have a session with my athlete? Because, I'm really not feeling they're motivated. And one of the first things I'll say, Jeremy, what's your why? What's motivating you to want to play AAA? Well, my parents quit.
Yep.
And I'll pick up the phone and I'll call the parents and say, I really don't recommend AAA hockey for Jeremy. Why? He's playing because he thinks you want him to play. Mm-hmm. It's not a strong enough why. It's not going to get you to the rink at 6:30 in the morning. When adversity hits, it's not going to push through. The athletes that really know their why, they embrace the challenge, they want new friendships, they enjoy the process of getting better. When you have a strong why, when that adversity hits, as it will, failure is a part of life. Failure is a part of hockey. Failure is a part of goaltending. And if you can't learn how to deal with failure, you're never going to be able to go up that food chain.
Yeah.
And so you take a look at the best goalies in the world. What? They let in on average 3 goals every game. Every single game, they fail. And I'll get my young goalies to say, tell me who your favorite goalie is. Okay, let's look him up. 2.96 goals against average lifetime. He lets in 3 goals every game. If he hasn't learned how to deal with adversity and failure, he's not where he is. Mm-hmm. And so transitioning athletes to understand failure, that it's a part of the game, and your response to failure is largely what's going to dictate where you go in this sport.
I could not. Yeah, good.
I just had a thought because it resonates very much with the athletes. But have you ever been invited or asked to speak to the parents and coaches? Because they need to know that's the message you're giving to these athletes. And the parents have to, look at it differently than they are, and the coaches need to look at it similarly to you are, because they could be everybody's at cross purposes, and you got the poor kid in the middle, right?
Yeah, getting pulled in so many directions.
Have you ever spoken to parent groups?
I have, and I have to be honest. I mean, I still am doing a lot of on-ice training, but I'm really looking at transition. I'm having so much fun and so much success with my hockey life skills mentorship program. I would really like to take it to another level, and being invited on this podcast and maybe people hearing some of the messaging and what I do, I really would like to transition more into that type of work, and I really enjoy it. And yes, I would visualize going forward to working with hockey associations and parent groups, and so yeah, I definitely would love to do that. And I think you make a really good point that we need to make sure that the messaging, there's some congruency there. And is my message new? Maybe. Some of my takes on things are pretty unique, and I'm pretty proud of what I've been able to do with it. I think having the research in resiliency, and then, I took my book, my techno-resiliency, my PhD in England was based literally on having to theoretically understand the concept of resiliency. I developed a unique theory called techno-resiliency, but then I got thinking, well, your PhD and your doctorate is in resiliency. Let's transition that resiliency work that you've done and let's bring that into the work that I'm doing in the hockey. Mm-hmm. So that's been really kind of a double-edged, usefulness there too.
I actually was just listening to a podcast talking about, AI coming in and eliminating a lot of jobs that have been, traditionally like a white collar job, and what's going to happen, like you're going to have to find ways to reinvent yourself, and maybe you weren't ready for that. And, 2 or 3 decades before that, it was robotics coming in and replacing, a factory worker, and, nobody seemed to really mind as much. It felt like, oh, if I'm going to get stuff cheaper, don't worry, like they'll find their own. And now it's like it keeps moving up the chain about who's having to be replaced and what they have to do. And again, I think that those skills are important and can be taught at a young age, that, you're going to have to adapt. You're going to have to learn. I don't remember the teams I made as much as I remember the teams I was cut from.
100%.
And what drove me with that chip on the shoulder, and I want to prove to you that you made a mistake, and then you learn after so long that you're not proving it to anybody but yourself. And that's the best part of it, is if you can harness that energy and find a way to pull from that, it's the best thing about, not that anybody wants to be cut, but that's that chance to figure out how can I do something more, or what can I use this opportunity for?
I just spoke to 17 business students Monday through the business center here in North Bay. I was asked to do a presentation. And I spoke about, again, failure as being such an essential life lesson, and learning how to fail in business, and looking at people like Michael Jordan, who got cut from his high school basketball team.
Yep.
And then I kind of got into some concepts of resiliency. But one of my assumptions about resiliency, and I was just commenting on how good Dave looks here, and he's looking like he's been working out, right? I mean, looks like he's
chopping wood.
Yeah, exactly, chopping wood, he said. But fact of the matter is, resiliency is like a muscle, okay? And so if we go to the gym and we work out, we can get that muscle strong. But if we don't work out the muscle, there will be atrophy. Well, resiliency, one of my key assumptions, is also like a muscle. That yes, if you don't consider yourself to be resilient, the good news is that it's like a muscle. We can work on that, and I have kind of my steps to becoming more resilient, and there's a program, and if you commit to that, you can become more resilient. The bad news is that if you don't kind of keep up with it, well, your muscle, your resiliency muscle, it will lose its strength. But I journaled this the other day, because even in my life right now, I'm dealing with some tremendous adversity and pain, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. And I thought about this the other day. Just like when I go to the gym, I work out and I'm still pretty strong at my age and stage, but there's some weights I just can't lift, and I'm not strong enough. And sometimes the resiliency muscle just isn't strong enough to carry the burden or the weight of the world. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that the other day, because I don't want there to be any illusions of grandeur here, that we can have this resiliency muscle that's going to allow us to overcome everything in life and living, because I don't believe that's true either. But then there's other things that we have to do to offset that. But I love this thing. I say, are you overcome or are you overcoming? And that comes school, life, hockey, right? Are you overcome or are you overcoming? And, that's something that I guess is kind of at the heart of what I'm really interested in, is looking at how are some athletes able to overcome considerable challenges and others aren't? How are some business leaders able to overcome COVID and motivate and others aren't? How are some organizations able to leverage technology without a lot of money and training and others aren't? And so those are the questions that kind of guide me.
Mm-hmm. I think sometimes too, you get people who, the amount of tools you need, whether it's to succeed in business or to succeed in sports or music, whether you have that natural talent is one thing, but how many people have had natural talent but not had the drive? And then you can have the drive, but you don't have the talent. So what do you do there? And then who has the means, whether it's, financially or in time, to be able to devote yourself to that? And, you start to have that mix of all of those to be able to succeed in the thing that you want. And maybe you just, some point, have to learn that you don't possess those tools, and the tools you do possess are better suited to something else.
Yeah, I like what you're saying there, Paul, because what I hear you saying to me is what in my work with athletes, I call the performance chain. What I'm trying to do is strengthen the performance chain for my athletes in terms of the mental and the emotional. But when you think of an athlete, baseball, hockey, soccer, any athlete literally has 4 parts of what I call the performance chain. You have your physical. So the physical, that basically supports the technical aspect. So if you're a volleyball player, bump, set, spike, whatever. Then you have the strategic. So you could be really physically strong, you could be technically really good and mentally, emotionally really strong, but you have no idea how to play the game or where to be. Mm-hmm. So to succeed at any sport, you have to strengthen that performance chain at the physical, the mental, the emotional, the strategic, and the technical. And when all those things are tight, well, then you've got the ability to probably get to next level. Mm-hmm. But how many people have all of those things in order? Right?
Yeah, and the timing, it just sometimes is being in the right place at the right time is the kind of final thing that can mix it all up. But yeah, it's I think the sooner that kids can learn that, I wonder sometimes too. I talk a lot on here about how popular and where sports is going and what it's doing, and I wonder is some of that Can you attribute some of that to the fact that, we seem to not hold some of the same standards to kids in school anymore? So is a sport one of those things where there is still a way to measure yourself against other people? Because when you get into the real world, so to speak, we're not just going to pass people around. People need to find the people to fit their needs and their business model or the job that they're posting for. So, yeah.
You just reminded me of something, because I did my qualifications in physical education when I was a teacher at University of Toronto. So I spent a summer down in Toronto doing my phys ed qualifications. And back in those days, when we were taught how to teach foul shots, part of our grading is we stood on the foul line and we had to demonstrate good technique, and we had to shoot 10. Now, we weren't measured on whether how many we made, but we had to demonstrate the technique. I can safely say I did make 8 out of 10. All right, just for the record here, boys.
So you're not the guy I want to foul in the last 30 seconds.
Exactly. Okay. But, so as an educator, I saw that transition from kind of skills-based to kind of, I would argue, we kind of gone to cooperative play and less kind of competitive. Mm-hmm. And, we can certainly have an argument and a debate about that and where that's taken us. But we certainly, in my humble opinion, have kind of maybe shifted a bit too far. I'll go on the record of saying that.
Absolutely. We got to make sure that we're not raising too soft to people that don't understand what the achievement of winning is and the growth opportunity of losing is. Right. So, but let's take a little bit of left turn, Clyde, because I do know that a balanced life and other interests are important to people. I'd like to plug your ZZ Top stuff coming up, because this is an important element to your life, and you're facing the challenge of learning new things right now. And you were telling me before we started here that you not only with your personal life going through challenges, your hobby life and your musical life. So tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I think it's really important. We were talking about that integrity gap. I really am cognizant of what I teach and what I preach. Is I'm really trying to integrate and live it myself. And I was recently working with an athlete, and we were talking about some of the concepts. And I said to Tucker, everything that we're working on, you need to understand that I'm currently battling and grinding right now through my own, right? Like I auditioned for a ZZ Top cover band, and I'm having to learn the Live in Texas concert, and we're playing up at the festival, I think June 27th up in Temiskaming at the Biker Festival, and I have a limited amount of time to learn an entire concert. And there were times I was sitting down to the drum kit, and I suffer from, I call it the what ifs. What if I can't do it? What if? And as a hockey player, as a goalie, I can't tell you how many times I sat in that dressing room. What if I let a bad goal in? What if I let my team in? Now, I teach my athletes how to deal with the what ifs. I tell them, do not fear failure. Failure is a part of the game. We're not feeling failure, but you better fear the what ifs. And you better know how to deal with the what ifs. So yeah, I've been prepping hard for this ZZ Top concert. I'm heading to Kingston this weekend for another rehearsal. But man, I'm doing my darndest to push the what ifs out because it's been a lot of work. I call it a healthy distraction, but I got to be honest, Dave. I underestimated when you're mentally in your mental acuity and you're not as sharp and you're going through a lot of stuff. I've having a hard time retaining information, and so
you're getting old too, eh?
Well, I do. We won't go into the actual age.
Oh, we're both
stage,
59 at the moment.
Exactly. Yeah, you never ever want your IQ and your age to be the same. So if that happens, and I don't think you're there yet, but when your age and your IQ are the same, you got issues.
Yeah, for sure. Are you playing any from the Tres Hombres album?
The Live in Texas concert, we're playing it pretty much note for note. And yes, I'm trying to think what songs those are that we will play from that. But I'm going to put another plug in. Hey, another band, a local band I'm in, Midlife Crisis. We are the very first Summer in the Park. Wednesday, June the 18th, we're going to be playing, we're kicking off the Summer in the Park series. And I'm really looking forward to that. So that's another band I'm in, Midlife Crisis.
Well, maybe I'll be done celebrating my birthday by then. Maybe I'll extend it one more day of the celebration.
I'll get you up on the stage for a drum
midlife
solo.
crisis is
yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's something we all have to deal with, and it's coming at Paul pretty fast.
It is. That's like looking at labels, going, what's happening here?
Well, we got to wrap it up there pretty soon. There, we got another person coming in. Really happy that you came in and we could talk about this. This subject is very important because it forms a foundation for a lot of athletes' lives, right? So getting them on sort of in the right mindset for dealing with what they're dealing with is going to help them in dealing with their life going forward, and maybe in other aspects, of course. And so that's what we need to learn in life is roll with the punches, be resilient, but also, there's, be very close to what you're saying and what you're doing, and then things happen well. Right?
And if I can put a shameless plug in there, if anybody's interested, organizations, I work with teams. I mean, I've done a lot of business mentoring and athletes, but if you go to mandatetobegreat.com, you can reach out to me there. You can find me there, and I've got some great video clips up there kind of explaining a little bit about my hockey life skills mentorship program and some of the other work I do. So mandatetobegreat.com. Would look forward to maybe hearing this from some of the audience out there.
Right on.
I'd say, yeah, because teaching resilience at a young age can be just as important as learning a backhand or how to do a crossover.
You got it.
It's a lot easier to learn at a young age, just like a language.
Yeah,
me
for
too.
sure. Yeah.
And apply it to your life. Anyways, thank you very much.